Greetings and salutation to the golden option. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Salam, salam, salam. May peace and reconciliatorial, tranquil blissfulization restingly rule upon us all. Why don't we continue from our last wonderful vociferatorial lecture on the two powerful forces in the universe and their papal clashings. We have been discovering that there are two papacies in our marvelous cosmological universal structure. And these two popedoms, papacydoms, papaldoms, one is the product of Papal Hover himself, and the other is a product of man. Man is a wanna-popa-bee. That's what we discovered last week as we went into the inner dynamics of the psyche of the wanna-gotta-bee. In fact, let me hear you say, wanna-gotta-bee. Excellent. Let me hear you say, wanna-popa-bee. Good. Let me hear you say, gonna-gotta-bee. Excellent. Let me hear you say, wanna-popa, gonna-gotta-bee. Beautiful. And this system, that is we call papacy B, is the wanna-papacy B, and the papal A system is Papal Hover's system. And it is so very important, people, that we come to some kind of understanding that there is these papal systems structured throughout the cosmological universal structure by the grand permission of Papal Hover. And these two systems are rival systems. They have been rivaling for, let's say, the last 6,000 years or thereabout. And these systems used to, let's say, preoccupy themselves way back behind the walls of eternity, long before the creation of man. In fact, these two systems have been rivaling against one another before man, as I said before, and they will be rivaling until the second coming of the Sabbath school teaching prophet of Nazareth on the mighty clouds of angelic glory. So why don't we continue as we peer into the dynamics, the inner dynamics, and also the outer dynamics of the character, personality, and attributes of these two papal systems, so that we can identify which papal system we choose to be on, and thus we can distinguish between the authenticatorial papacy, popedom, Papal Hover's system, or the wanna-popa-bee system. Okay? So why don't we just briefly go over some of the things we have been discovering last week concerning the Shabbatocracy as it relates to the papacy of Jehovah. Remember, papacy means a fatherocracy, a ruling spiritualistico-logical father of a sort. This is very important that we understand that the authenticatorial popedom and the only true authenticatorial popedom is Jehovah's kingdom, okay, which is the fatherocracy of heaven, okay, sometimes called the theopapological, Father, Son, Holy Spiritual Shabbatocracy. Now remember, the Shabbatocracy, as we have been discovering throughout the courses of these lectures, is who? Remember? Very good. The Shabbatocracy is the government of the fatherocracy in heaven. Okay? Shabbatocracy and fatherocracy are the same thing. How do we know this? See here in the Elo Shabbatim, okay? This is another way to say the Shabbatocracy. The Elo Shabbatim, that is Elohim, that's the creator of the universal cosmological structure. And this Abba that you see in the middle here, A-B-B-A, is the Aramaic expression for father or pope. In fact, I could call it Abbatocracy or Abbaocracy. It means father rule. Okay? So in the very heart of the Shabbat, called in the Hebrew language for the Sabbath, okay, you will have Abba in the center, or the heart, or the stem between the SH and the T at the end. Okay? This is very important because people, we cannot separate or divide Jehovah from his seventh-day Shabbat. It is utterly impossible to try to do so. And to try to do so, as many, many theologians have been trying to do, it is an exercise in futility. Okay? It is a zilchification. It is a nothing. It is no point in trying to do so. Nevertheless, the Elo Shabbatim will always be in place because the universe is always in place. So thus, there will always be the seventh-day Shabbat, okay? A sign of the Elo Shabbatim's power to create, okay? If you remove the seventh-day Shabbat or place less significance on the seventh-day Shabbat, we are actually entering into dangerous grounds. And entering upon this dangerous grounds is attempting to try to remove God away or out or from his sign, his cosmological sign, his cosmogonic sign, okay, to create. Okay, so we have the Elo Shabbatim, and which we must never forget, and this is how we cognate the Creator's name, title, and position of the universal cosmological structure, which was designed and created by him and for his people. Okay? This is one of the lost truths which must be taught in the closing days of Earth's history. That is the premillennial Earth's history. All right? So, we discovered also in our lectures that the upper P-case papacy, hoodship of Jehovah, is the true eternal papacy. It's the true and everlasting popedom, as it were. Okay? Because God is our Father. Is that right? He is our fatherocracy, and those that follow the mandates and the teachings of the Heavenly Fatherocracy are called Shabbatocracy-crats. In fact, let me hear you say Shabbatocracy-crats. Let me hear you say Shabbatocracy-crat. Very good. Remember, ocracy means power. It's like if you say democracy. Remember, dim from the Greek, demos means people. Ocracy means power. All right? Very good. I think you're getting it now. So when we say Shabbatocracy, we're talking about the power of the Abba, that is the Abbatocracy, to create the Shabbatocracy, which is a sign of his power to create. It's a power sign, people. It's a great, dynamic, powerful sign that someone evidenced the creation of this marvelous universal cosmological structure whereby we find ourselves. Okay, shall I continue? Muchos, thank you, gracias. Okay, we will continue. And the lower P case papacy is a creation of the Homo fabricatus. That means man-made. All right? This is a creation in the absence of God here on earth. Okay? But this is not authenticatized by the upper P case papacy. Okay? This is why they are clashing and will be clashing until the war is over. The cosmological universal war is over. Okay? So this war will be intensified as the prophecies will be fulfilled from Daniel and the book of Revelation. Read those two books, especially in the year 2003. Okay? Now, last week we went into the Nin-Mob concept. Remember that? Okay? The Nin-Mob is that beast that John on the Isle of Patmos was warning the worshippers, global worshippers, not to participate with. Here we have the mob here, mark of the beast. Okay? Isn't that what the Apocalypse tell us about there in, I think, the 13th chapter of the book of Revelation, about the mark of the beast? And if any man receives that mark, he will also receive the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And we're going to find out what this mark is, ultimately speaking. The Nin-Mob here has a name, okay? He has an image, he has a number, and it is the mark of the beast, and which we call the Nin-Mob. In fact, let me hear you say Nin-Mob. Good. Let me hear you say Nin-Mobocracy. Ah, excellent. That's good. And of course, you see this VS here, which would indicate that the Nin-Mob stands in contradistinction between the Nin-Sog. Okay? The Nin-Sog is the powers of God. Okay? Powers of man, that's the Nin-Mob. And the power of God is the Nin-Sog. God, that is Jehovah, has a name, an image, and a number 2. Okay? This SOG here is an acronym, that is an apocalypticological acronym, for the seal of God. Remember, people, these rivalries, the great controversy, you might want to call it, the great debate, as to who is the owner of this cosmological universal structure. Who owns it? Who created it? There has to be some sort of cosmogonical sign as to who created this universe, and that is called the Shabbatocracy. Okay? That's why the Shabbatocracy-crats, or you might want to call us Shabbatarians, observe the Shabbatocracy publicly, so that the people will see that these people are worshiping the Creator. Okay? Remember, the ocracy is a power. And if this Shabbatocracy sign here indicates J. Papel's ability to create something out of nothing, then what about this Shamashocracy? Okay? It's going to try to do the same thing as the Shabbatocracy. We call that counterfeit in some circles, but we know that the finite can never counterfeit anything that pertains to the prerogatives of the people over. It just can't. It just cannot. How can the finite imitate the infinite? There was a time when the finite never existed, and the infinite has always existed. So can the finite imitate or counterfeit any of the prerogatives of the infinite? The answer has to be no. Okay? So the Shamashocracy is a government of man made here on earth that is to worship any system other than the Shabbatocracy is the sun god worship. It's the sun god's system of worship called Shamashocracy. The word for sun god institutions in the Aramaic and also in the Ugaritic tongue is called Shamash. Look in your dictionary for the name Shamash, and you will see that Shamash was a sun god. In fact, how do you say sun in Ugaritic or Aramaic? You say Shamash. Let me hear you say Shamash. Good. Let me hear you say Shamashocracy. Excellent. Now, the word for sun in Hebrew would be Shemesh. Let me hear you say Shemesh. Good. Remember Solomon? He made a statement there in the book of Ecclesiastes when he said, there is no new thing under the sun. Remember that? Ein chadas etakat eta shemesh. See, shemesh means sun. In Hebrew, in Ugaritic or Aramaic, it's shamash. Okay, I think you're kind of getting this thing. So these two grand forces will be rivaling each other as they are rivaling each other now, and as they have been rivaling each other in the past. We could safely call these two rival situations the clashings between the two popedoms. That's the clashing of the two popedoms manifested down here on earth in the authorities of man versus the authority of the theopapological Father, Son, Holy Spiritual Shabbatocracy. Now, I think last time we wanted to break down these acronyms here, these apocalypticological acronyms, the NIN-MOB, okay, M-O-B, mark of the beast, number, name, image, or name, image, number. And, well, we want to contrast these two numbers here for you, okay? Okay, we know he has a name, okay? The name, and I'll show you about that, how to calculate that name mathematically later on. The name is vicarious filii Dei. In fact, let me hear you say vicarious filii Dei. Okay, now this is the ecclesiastical name of, let's say, this beast. Remember, a beast is simply a government. And in terms of heathen, pagan, Yahwehist ecological societies in the Bible, they were persecutionary governments. Okay? Okay, these are persecutionary governments. That's what, when the beast and the governments in Bible times, that's what they were. Okay? They were brutal governments. Okay? They were savage governments. Okay? They were violent governments. Okay? And that's what when we read in the Bible when it speaks of the beast as a government. But we also know that a beast government trying to imitate the Heavenly Fatherocracy cannot successfully operate without a queendom. Okay? In other words, the papacy of man cannot be successful in its operation except it has a mapacy, a consort mapacy. Okay? The mapacy is the female or mother attributes of the popedom of man relative to the popedom of God. Okay? Now remember, people, when the Bible speaks of kings and kingdoms, it don't necessarily always mention the queen, but a king has to have a queen. Okay? And in most cases, the king tries to please the queen. And this is what makes these kingdoms more or less queendoms. Okay, queen kingdoms. Okay? Very interesting. You remember the story of Jezebel? And Ahab was a king, is that right? Really, Ahab was a pope. All of the kings were popes. Okay? Spiritualistically speaking, they were all popes because a papaldom is the highest authority designated by the Fatherocracy in the entire cosmological universal structure. That's the highest authority. Okay? That's all power, omniscience, pantasophia in Greek, meaning all wisdom. So the Nen mob has a number, and that number is 600 and what? 666. Okay, this is a zodiological number dealing with the movements of the cosmological structure relative to the constellations, the sun, the moon, and the stars. Is that right? Of course. Okay. And the 666 is a zodiological number. Okay? I mean, it could be imaginary or real, but it is a zodiological number, and I will explain that later on. And the king, so to speak, of our cosmological structure is among the stars or the stellar constellations is the sun. Okay? Is the Shamash. Is the Shemesh. Okay? That's the Hebrew word for sun. Shamash, Ugaritic, same thing. And all of the ancients, beloved, worshipped the sun god. That's right. The sun god, named Nim-Samaramarad. In fact, let me hear you say Nim-Samaramarad. Okay, that's Nimrod and his mother, wife Samarama. She tells the story which constitute the fairy fable tale, mythological, fictionary myths of Babylon. Okay, the fairy fantasy, fable tale, fictionary myths of Babylon have crept into all of the ecclesiastical circles today. Not one is exempt. Okay? All right. Well, what do we mean by the, let's say, fairy, fantasy, fable, tale, fictionary myths of Babylon? Very good. Well, those myths were devised by the Nen mob. Okay? The Nen mob. This is the adver emissary of the papal Hova. Anyway, just getting back to the number and contrast to the number of the Nensag. Does the fatherocracy of the Nensag have a number? Okay? Does the papal Hova have a number? Yes, he does. And you know what that number is? That number comes out to be 460. That's right. You didn't know that, did you? You thought just the beast had a number, and his number was 666. But the Nensag, that is the seal of God, the name, image, number, seal of God, didn't have one at all. Well, why don't we just back up here and go over to the high priestly administration of Melchizedek. How many have heard about Melchizedek, or called Malchizedek? That would be the correct way to call it. Malchi in Hebrew means my king. Sadiq means my king is righteous. Or better yet, my king is righteous. Okay? Malchizedek. That's what that literally means, grammatically speaking. Okay? Some people say Melchizedek means king of righteousness. Not so. Mal means king. Malki, my king. Sadiq, my king, he is righteous. Okay? And if anyone is going to get any righteousness at all down here on planet Earth, people, you have to get it from somewhere else, because there is absolutely no acceptable righteousness in man, unconditionally speaking. Absolutely none. Okay? And without righteousness, which is also holiness, no worshiper can see the papal Hova in peace, in shalom, in salam. That's what the Torah teaches. And I'm going to share something with you relative to the pre-cosmological Torah, the pre-cosmological Tanakh. That is, the Tanakh is the old Hebrew scriptures from Genesis to Malachi. Okay? I'm going to tell you something about these mysteries, people, because this battle that is being waged for the last, 6,000 years of our time, there has to be a reason for the battle. Anyway, look over here into this corner here. Number one, you will see a high priest, okay? What is the purpose of a high priest, or a great priest as it is called in the Hebrew language? What is the purpose of a priest? And a priest is, that's an old English word, but you could say clergy, same thing. Okay, what is its function? What is a priestly liturgical spiritual function? What is it? Well, a priest is supposed to be one who stands between the natural and the supernatural, one who represents the supernatural relative to the natural.